Good morning, everybody. We're just getting ourselves set up here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to have you all here. We can chit chat while we're waiting. I'm in a slightly different spot today.
Okay.
Joyce, hi Joyce. I knew I recognized you. I'm awful with names, but I never forget a face. I'm going to welcome everybody. Terry, Barb, Kathleen, Tager. Hi. Tagar. Emily, Bobby, Cynthia, Helen, Vanessa, Raj, Maria, Mary Jean, and Regina. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give everybody another minute or two to join in. And someone has already preempted my request to go ahead and put in the chat up to 2 things you'd like to learn today. Sometimes I say 3 things, but there's a lot to learn in Excel. I get in trouble if I ask you 3 things. So 2 things you'd like to learn today about Excel. And a show of hands, anybody new to Get Set Up this morning? This is your first Get Set Up class. Fabulous. Kathleen, welcome to Get Set Up. Bobby, welcome to Get Set Up. And if you're not on camera, you can raise your hand virtually and we'll acknowledge this is your first class. Great. Have either of you people, this is for the first time, have you done the new members class? Okay, I recommend, hi, Mary, it looks like you did it. I recommend you take that class. It's with Marv, and it's a great way to learn about all the things you can learn in Excel. Maria wants to know VLOOKUP. That's a big one. That's how to frame and do headings, wrap text. I can show you wrap text real easily. That's a great one. That's a good one to learn. You can't make the top column freeze. I can do that. We can freeze the text. We can freeze the column or the text. Yep. Another one wants to know how to freeze more than one column or row at the same time. You can freeze more than one. Yes. Maria, I'm laughing because you said VLOOKUP because I've done it before. It's pretty advanced programming and I haven't done it in quite a few years. So I would actually have to remember how to do VLOOKUP. I've used macros and all sorts of fancy things in programming in Excel, but it's been a few years since I've done that. Someone wants to know how to create a new sheet with the same formatting. Okay, we can try to show you that. I think we probably have most of the folks we have coming in. I'm going to read names again. We've got Elizabeth, Karen. Karen, you look familiar. I had you in a class before?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
This is my first class with Excel.
Great.
Yes.
Terry, Kathleen, Christina, Emily. I've had Emily quite a few classes. We were in some classes yesterday. Tagar, Joyce. I've had Joyce in quite a few classes. Bobby, Mary. I think I've had you in a class before, Mary. Is that right? I think I remember your last name. Raj, Vanessa, Helen, Cynthia, Mary Jean, Regina, and Maria. Wonderful. I am enjoying Kathleen. Everything. I create spreadsheets, but I don't know really what I'm doing. I was doing that for years, playing around. You know, one of the fun things about doing stuff like this is you can play around. And if there's no consequence, what the heck if you just delete it, right? However, it can get frustrating when you're trying to do something important and you can't figure out how to do it. So I've got some great suggestions. If you joined me in the last minute and didn't get a chance to put into the chat what you'd like to learn, go ahead and do that. We're going to start with some basic stuffs. Let me ask one more question. Anybody here never used Excel or Google Sheets before? Okay, so Tagar, you're new. All right, that's fine. And
Aaron.
Very good. This is an introductory class, so we expect to have people that have never used
Never done Google Sheets.
Okay.
I haven't done Google Sheets or Excel either.
Okay, I do a class on Google Sheets. Though I don't think I have a Google Sheets class this week. Let's just check. No, I don't have a Google Sheets class this week, but there is one next week.
Next
Either
year, April.
the next one,
6th, April 6th.
okay, April 6th. Wade also teaches it. So
Oh,
very
okay.
similar. Google Sheets is kind of a stripped down version of Excel. And honestly, for most people's purposes, Google Sheets does just fine. Excel has all sorts of amazing capabilities. It really Excel becomes a lot of computer programming, actually. Very good, but you'd really have to take an now. By the way, Wade teaches a sort of an advanced, or I think it's called intermediate Excel class, and where he goes beyond what I'm going to teach you today. We don't have an advanced class yet, but if you put in your class feedback today, and you'll all get an email at the end of this class with a link to see the video for it and a chance to give feedback. I love feedback, and you can tell me how I did, how I can improve, and you can also suggest classes. So if intermediate isn't good enough and you want an advanced, you can let us know that. I am starting a Word class next week. So if you'd like to learn Microsoft Word or how to do better in Microsoft Word,
Good.
oh, you know what? I didn't write down the day, but it is next week. I'm doing I also do Google Docs, Google Slides. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to welcome everybody here. And we had Lina with us, but she's disappeared. She's our fabulous tech person. Let's just see. Before I check. Okay. Just going to check the chat there. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to pull up Google. Everybody see something that says Excel Basics?
Yeah.
Fabulous. We're all on the same virtual page. Very good. I'm your guide, Russ Eanes. I live in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is in the lovely Shenandoah Valley of Western Virginia. We're 30-mile wide valley between, or maybe more, between the Blue Ridge and the Allegheny Mountains. Sometimes they call them the Shenandoah Mountains. The Shenandoah River runs right up the middle. And it's a lovely place with farming. Harrisonburg is a college town. We have James Madison University. Right size kind of city for me. I like it. I'm a writer, a walker, and a cyclist, but I formerly was a book publisher where my favorite thing was to help authors shape their ideas into a book. And I'm now working full-time as a guide instructor for Get Set Up. And I love the energy I get from working with you all and the wisdom I collect. I think for older adults to be learning new things is really what it's all about. Get Set Up helps you learn useful skills from people like you so you can do wonderful things like build macros and all sorts of famous and fabulous programming things in Excel. We learn from each other. Ideally, we can see you and the cameras are on. You can request a recording of this class after the class. You can email help@getsetup.io. And if you didn't catch that email right now, I'll make sure it goes into the class notes. If anyone is joining by live stream, the best way to participate is to join us and register for a class. So please do that. And by the way, Get Set Up's not paid to promote any specific products. So even though we're teaching you Excel, Microsoft Excel this morning, we are not paid by Microsoft to do that. Our agenda is pretty simple. We're going to talk about what Excel is and how to get access to it, how to create and save Excel workbooks, how to use simple formulas and functions, and how to enter, format, and copy information. And we're going to make sure we do that wrap text and freeze panes because that's what a lot of people want to know. And that's a pretty handy thing to know. Excel is a powerful spreadsheet program which allows user to enter and manage data in the form of numbers, texts, and formulas. For decades, it's been the undisputed market leader in spreadsheet programs. And on the other hand, Google Sheets is gaining in popularity. And I do say that since I have no stake in whether you use Excel or not, for most people, Google Sheets is probably all you need. It is easier to share. It's free. It's in the cloud. You use it in your browser, and it constantly saves your work. So it's really hard to lose much. If anything, when you're working in it, you can also collaborate with people in Google Sheets. If you want to access Excel, you have to have Microsoft 365. A subscription to that is $69.99 a year. Just checked on that price last night. It's still that price. I subscribe by the month. I pay $6.99. So I pay a little bit more for it to have a monthly subscription. More stuff comes with the Office 365. That's how I have Word and PowerPoint, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes with that I don't actually use. I have it for Word and for Excel. You can purchase hard disk copies that you can load on your computer of older versions. So I actually have on another laptop Office 2016, which I purchased outright. You can get older versions. The problem, the concern with getting with older versions is that Microsoft doesn't support them after a certain point. And however, those older versions are perfectly good. And if you have an older version, you probably can do all the work you need in Excel. You can also upload Excel spreadsheets into Sheets, and you can go the other way. So you can work between the two. So rather than telling you more stuff about what you're going to do, I'm going to demonstrate for you and actually open Excel. If I can grab it onto my screen, there we go. I opened Excel. Does everybody see now the Microsoft Excel? Yep, there we go. So this is what you get at the beginning when you want to open something. You have on the left some choices. You can, I'm at the home screen. You can do something new right there. By clicking on it, you can click on recent, and it'll bring up a list of all the recent spreadsheets that you've worked with. And there you can look at ones that are shared, and you can you can also just open one if it's on your desktop, or sorry, if it's on your hard drive. I am going to go ahead and click on new, and similarly to Google Sheets or any of the Google apps, you get first thing, a whole slew of templates you can choose. So you could, if you know you want to use one of these templates, it's probably a little easier. They come formatted for you, both in terms of the design, how they look, and they're also formatted. If there's something that has calculations in it, it should have the formulas built in for you. So that might be an advantage. I've used it before to do a calendar, which I'm not seeing right off the bat, but you can do and some of these, by the way, you can get this mortgage loan calculator, do that, and you can just plug in the information. You calculate mortgages for you. You can do a family budget with charts and graphs. Isn't that fancy? So actually, here's a fun thing to do. I encourage people to do: open one of these templates and play with it. Worst thing that happen is you trash it. Nothing lost. So Excel, I have spent a lot of time over the years just playing with Excel, both in my old job, because before I was a publisher, I was also a finance director. And even though I don't have an accounting background, I am self-taught in Excel over about 25 years. I did take a couple of days classes in it to learn some things. And I'm going to teach you two really valuable things today. And they're not freeze panes, and they're not how to format your headings or wrap text. I'm going to teach you two things that you all will remember. One is the checkbox, the green check, and the red X, and the fill handle. Teach you some of that other stuff too, but if you learn those things, you'll learn a lot. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on a blank workbook. And there you all see that I have a big sheet full with a grid with everything you want to see on it, and ready to enter data. Before I enter data, I am going to show you a few things on the menus of Excel. And so at the top, you have the basic Microsoft set of menus. You have a file menu, an edit menu, a view menu, insert, format, so on and so forth. These all have drop-down menus, and some of those even have menus underneath them. If you click on them, if you see the little area under there, it'll show you more choices. So you can spend, a lot of these are duplicated in what I'm going to show you in a minute, which is called the ribbon. And most of us tend just to work in the ribbon. And so the ribbon is down here. Okay. is all these icons, and their icons are clustered together with like types of icons that do same things. So they're easy to identify. And then there are 7 different ribbons. So this is the home ribbon. Then you have an insert ribbon. See, now as soon as I click on insert, this insert ribbon heading up here, or tab, or whatever you want to call it, different people call it different things. The ribbons, the icons change. If you go to page layout, it changes again. If you go to formulas, once again, it changes. This concept with ribbons is fairly new. So if you used Excel in the past, this is kind of a new thing. They've always had the ribbon, but breaking the ribbon down into these sub ribbons is kind of new. It's kind of helpful, at least for me, because you can get a lot more stuff that you can click on quickly. The review, and then finally the view. The review gives you chances to check your work, look at comments. The view is great because it gives you chances of how you're going to view this. And here, by the way, we'll come to this freeze panes that's under the view ribbon. I'll show you how to freeze the panes at the top row so they stay in place. So that's what they are. In the home ribbon, you've got basic things like this is the formatting. So you can change your font here. You've got a whole lot of fonts, a big drop down of many more fonts than you'll ever know what to do with. And to be honest, and then you can change your font size here, and you get a nice drop down of font sizes. You can quickly change your font size by clicking on the little a, big A. Down below it, you can bold, italic, underline. You can even do a double underline. This is helpful right here. This little drop down about borders. This creates borders for whatever areas you select. So if you select an area, it'll do borders around that area. There's the fill. I'll show you the fill where you can, I just clicked that. I made A1 yellow. So if you want to, that's very helpful if you're working with someone. You've got spreadsheets can get big with lots of rows and columns, and it's hard to point something out to somebody. So sometimes you can just take a whole row or a whole column and you can make it a color, and then it's really easy for people to identify. I've worked with people that they've used, yellow, orange, red to indicate whether certain numbers were important or not, or problematic. The yellow is okay, the orange is concerning, and the red is, you better watch out. I'm going to click on no fill right now so we don't see any colors in there yet. And then you can change the font, the colors of the fonts here. I just stick with black because that's easiest to see. Then you've got this section here where you can format whether it's justified left, justified right, or centered. And then over here, you can increase or decrease an indent. I generally don't do that on spreadsheets. Here's the wrap text to show you how to do wrap text. That's a very common thing to do. That's up here. Again, we're in the home ribbon. These are the most common things that people work with. And then over here is the formatting of the data itself. So you can tell whether the data in a cell is a number, a currency, a percentage, how big that number is, how you want to format that number. That's all here. And then you've got some other things about formatting, how you can format cells right here. And this gives you a lot of stuff, actually, the fun thing to play around with. And then over here, you've got an insert, delete, and format, where you can insert cells, you can insert rows, you can insert columns. I use this a lot, and I'll show you how that works. And then over farther to the right, so make sure that you're if you're looking, if you've got the window of Zoom covering it, make sure you can see this. You've got the Sigma. This is your formulas, and we'll do some formulas. And then you've got next to it, you've got your sort, your options for sorting. So these are the most common things that people do in Excel. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to show you something that a lot of people don't know. And if you go to the bottom right of your screen there, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a slider bar.
No.
And that slider bar way in the bottom right can make those cells bigger or smaller for you. And my eyes are older and I wear glasses accordingly. And I often find the default size of the cells that you're going to enter in just a little too big to see. So I like to make them bigger. is so that they're reasonable, because if you do want to see all the data on your spreadsheet, you may need to, shrink them smaller. So that's what I like to do. So bottom right-hand corner slider bar, again, I'll show you can make the cell smaller. So you can, I've got over to column P and to row 35, but really now it's getting hard to read that top cell. So I'm going to, again, pull the slider bar over here so that I've got, I go to column I. It's a little bit easier for me to see, and I think a little easier for you to be seeing on screen what I'm doing. So I'm going to start out here, and I'm just going to enter some data. So I'm going to put in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So 65, why not? We're just tossing data in. And every time you hit return, Excel will take you to the cell immediately below. So that's very good. Now I'll show you something else I can do, and this is where I'm going to teach you what I call the fill handle. And once you learn this, you can do really powerful stuff with it. I'm going to do something similar to that. I'm going to put 1 in that first row in the column B in the first row of column B. Now, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to take, so you see how my cursor is a white cross. I'm going to bring it over to this little, there's a little tiny green square in the bottom right-hand corner. And now my cursor has gone from white cross to black cross, and I grab that and I just pull it down like this. And now it's copied everything. So now I got 1s in that cell. And if you wanted to copy what was in the first cell all the way down, that's what you need to do. But if you want to make it a series, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll notice below to the right of the fill handle is another little drop down. I wanted to make that a series. So I click on fill series, and now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if I grab that, now it's under fill series. If I grab that little fill handle in that it'll keep on going. Well, that's because I had a copy.
What is the fill handle? Is the cross, or is it the corner of the what do you call the
of the cell? It's the corner. It's that little, if you study that, there's a little tiny square in that bottom corner. That is the fill handle. And I'll show you, it does some more things. So right now what I've done is I have just gone 1 through 14 by a series. Now you can build a series in a different way. Let's say I want to do even numbers. So I make cell I'm now in column C. I do 2 and 4, and I pull down, and now it's doing the series in even numbers. So it figures out the logic of what you're doing. It'll do the same thing with dates. So now I'm going to show you, I want to show you how it works with dates, but while I'm at it, I'll just show you how to insert a column. So I'm like, oops, I need to have some dates in that column to the left. So I go over here to insert, and it says insert sheet column. Bing, I just put a column into the left. So it's very handy to insert columns. You can also drag columns and pull them somewhere if you want to. If I want to decide that I want to have column B over in oops, it's not letting me do that. If I grab the little glove, the little glove went away. If I get that glove, I should be able to pull it over there. But I don't really want that there. So I'm going to just go up here to undo, click that and leave it there. So let's put some dates in here. So let's put in here January. Oops, that's not very well nice. JAN. So now I grab my fill handle and I pull down, and if it says fill series, which it did, it now has put in January and March. And you can even get it to go into more detail. Let's say you want January 1st, January 2nd. So I do 1/1/21 in there. And now I grab the fill handle and oops, my mouse is a little funny today. Now I pull the fill handle down. Now it's doing it by day in January. It's a very handy little thing. I use the fill handle all the time because you can copy data. You can copy formulas. Now, if your data is not copyable, well, then okay, so I'm going to go back to this one. I'm just going to keep on putting some data in and just add random things, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, just all sorts of numbers. Okay, because in a minute I'm going to show you how to do some formulas with this. So this is nice data I put in, but then I realized, oops, I didn't put a header over any of my columns. So I really don't know what I've got here. Okay, okay, I know what January is. That's a date, right? But actually, maybe it's months. So I want to insert a row here. So I go up here, and this outside field right here that has the letters and the numbers in it. Okay, that's just that. You'll never see that when you print this out unless you ask it to print it. This is just a reference for you. These are your references. If you go into the reference here, of row 1 and highlight the whole row, I clicked on it, the whole thing's highlighted. Now I go over here to my insert, and Excel, do you want to insert a sheet row? I mean, it knows it's a row I'm trying to insert, not a column. So I click on insert. Now I've got a column up there. Sorry, a row, a new row. So let's put some headers up here. We'll put month there, and let's say the next one, let's just put in sales, and we're going to call this one quantity, and we're going to put frequency. I don't know. I'm just making up data right now just for the heck of it, just so you can see how to do that. And but let me do something here. Let me make one of these a little bit more than one word. So we're going to put sales for the month. Okay, now look what happens when I type in more data than fits in the cell. It cuts it off. So you can't see sales for the month in there anymore. It's in there. All right. If you click on sales for the month, it's in there. There's this row up here. This might be the third thing you learn. So I've showed you the fill handle. We're going to come to the check box and the X box soon. I call it the formatting row. The formatting row. It's up here. It's right below your ribbon. And always in this little area right here, it will tell you what is in any cell. So if I click down to this cell, the number 1 is in there, and it shows me the number 1 is up here. So if I go up here, I can see sales for the month is actually in that cell. I can't see it because it doesn't fit right now. Now, here's the interesting thing. If I go over to the row to column C and I delete the word quantity, now you can see what was in cell B has spilled over into C. So as long as I have nothing in C, it'll spill over. But I actually want that to be there. So quantity. So that's back to quantity. So it cuts that off. Now I can do a couple things here. If I decide that this is all the bigger than this spreadsheet, it's all the more data I'm going to have, I can just go ahead and make column B wider. So I go up here to the header and the line between the columns between B and C. And now you can see my cursor has got the little arrows there. And I double click that. It widens the column to the width of the data, the most data that's in any cell in that column. So because I've got sales for the month is in B2, it just widens the whole thing to that. And if that's the way you want to format, if that look is okay to you, then just leave it. That's fine. But for some of us, we might be building spreadsheets with that might have 15 or 20 columns, and they've got to be as tight and as small as you want it to be because maybe you're printing it out. So I don't like that. I want that to go back down here to like this size. But now I've lost sales for the month. So someone was asking how to wrap cells, and it's like this. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to highlight row 1. I'm going to go up here to wrap text, okay? And I'm going to click on wrap text, and now it's going to make row 1 deeper so that it can get sales for the month in B1. Okay, that was in wrap text.
Wrap text Is
Wrap-
that,
That's
okay.
that's okay. Go ahead and ask.
No, the lengthening of it, you have to click on the wrap text and
You have to
then
highlight the
highlight.
row that it's in, and then go over here in the center to wrap text. It's a very common thing. What's in the home ribbon are the most common things people do. So there it is up there, wrap text. So now it takes that and it kind of figures out what is a way to fit everything in the width of the column that I had set. One thing to watch out for is sometimes you can make a column too narrow, and look what happens if I make this column narrow. Well, it can, oops, it didn't work. Well, sometimes it can cut off the ends of letters and push them onto the, like one letter off the end of a word and push it in the next row, which doesn't make it readable. So I've just done wrap text. So that was another thing you all wanted to learn. Now let's say, hey, these are like headings of the columns. I want them to be bold. So I bold them up here. I clicked on B. And let's say I want them to be a bit bigger than 12. So I'm going to go over here to drop down by my font size, and let's make them 16. So they're a bit bigger. So now here's what it did. See how frequency got cut off? Frequent, and then CY got pushed to the end. It's subdividing a word. I can't get it to wrap text by putting different words in rows like it did here. So I'm going to have to make that column just a little bit wider so that frequency appears there as a word. Another thing I can do is say, well, I'm making that column too wide. Let's make that a 14 instead of a 16. And remember, whenever you make any fonts bold, it makes them wider. They're bigger. They're going to be bigger than they were before. Okay, so I've got my heading row here, and I've got my data. And now I have to figure out a formula for some of this. Maybe the formulas are what I want to know. So I can do some different basic formulas. Now, just for sake of consistency, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to get rid of 14 and 15. So I just highlight the whole area and I just hit my delete. The data's gone. I could also right click it and right click somewhere there would have been it. There's a delete. Right clicking, you can all see I just right clicked my mouse and it brought up all this stuff that you can do. So right clicking your mouse in Excel, any Microsoft, they build a lot into that right click. If you're left-handed, it's the left click. Okay, so let's build a formula in. But before I do formulas, let me pause here and ask any questions about the fill handle, that fill series, wrap text, anything I did that you all want to know, because I went over this and maybe I went too fast there. And I forgot to tell you all, there are no stupid questions in this class. I'm a lifelong learner by trial and error. So I usually do everything wrong once. I try to avoid making mistakes with critical things like building house foundations, which are really tough to fix if you do them wrong. But simple things like spreadsheets, I play around. So if any of you have a question about anything I've done so far, please don't hesitate to ask.
Could you just review the wrap text again?
Yes, I will show you the wrap text. To make wrap text work, you really have to wrap the text for an entire column or row. People mostly do it in row headings. And so I go over here, out here to my reference right here. So this is just for reference. This won't show up unless I ask it to when I print out my spreadsheet. This is just to give cell references because this is 1A, 1B, 1C. You click on here in the far left so that you get the whole row highlighted. Then you go up here to wrap text. I could take wrap text off. Okay, I just took it off. And now you see I've lost I can't see in front of me everything that's in B2. If I click on cell B2, I can see it up here. It says sales for the month. This is my little formatting row, and you can see that that's what's in there. But now I click up here to wrap text, and I click on wrap text, and it automatically breaks my text down by word or combinations of word to find the most comfortable fit. And it found that putting for the next to each other fit the size of the cell that I wanted. And sales and month both fit in there. So it's a very handy thing, very common thing. Oh, you know what? Before I do formulas, because this is something a lot of people ask, and one of you did ask this. I think more did. I'm going to show you how to freeze row 1 so that it stays there as you scroll up and down. So that's where you go to the view up here. So I was in home ribbon. Now I go over here and click on view. And there is a couple choices to this. You can freeze panes, which means you're going to freeze whatever you have highlighted, or you're just going to freeze the top row. So I'm going to click freeze the top row like that. So that's now frozen. And look what happens as I scroll up and down the spreadsheet, that top row stays static. Very good, because if you want to put more data in, then you can fit. And, if you want to scroll through the data on your screen, it's very handy to have that top row frozen. Let's say I've only got 13 rows of data here, but if you've got 25 or 30 rows, which you can in a spreadsheet, it can be very difficult to try to look down there. And as you're scrolling without that top one frozen, I'm going to unfreeze it. And now as I scroll up and down, it's locked in there. I won't mess with it. Ordinarily, if you don't have it frozen, the header row will scroll away, and then you won't be able to see what's in there.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So let's go down and so that's how to freeze pane. So that's over in the view ribbon. So we're going to go back to the home ribbon because that's where I work most of the time. I'm going to put in some simple formulas. And the first one I want to put in is just, I'm going to call a total. All right. So I'll make a total. And then I'm going to do one called average. I'm below that. Average. Okay. So now I'm going to do each of these columns, sales of the month, quantity, and frequency, and I'm going to total them. So I click in the cell where I want to have the formula. In this case, it is cell B14. And then I come over here to this little sigma right here in the top right-hand corner where we have the formulas located. And I click on the drop down. And it asks me which of these formulas I want to put in. There are hundreds of formulas, and I don't know what most of them do because they're very calculus based and mathematical, and I'm not that advanced and I don't need them. But I very typically use the most common one that most people use is a sum. So I click on sum. And now look what's happened. It's saying what is in cell B14 equals or is a sum of B12 to B13, or sorry, B2 to B13. You notice there's a little colon in between. That little colon means everything in between. So everything in between B2 and B13. And in case you're not reading what the formula says right there, it's highlighted it for you. So it says everything I've highlighted is going to be in that sum. So there's 3 ways to reference that. One is down here in the cell. You've got the formula written in there. This is why it really helps to make it bigger so you can see it, because I might look at that and not be sure what it's saying. All right. And up here, the formula is there as well. It equals B2 to B13. So if I like what's in there, if that's the correct thing, here's that green check. Remember I said I was going to show you 3 important things. One was the fill handle. It's the green check. Check. That is now correct. And so this right here is a sum of everything above it. Now here's where the fill handle comes in handy and is cool. Now I go down here and I grab my fill handle. Okay, so I went from white cross to black cross and I drag it and I pull that formula across the next 2 columns. And now it is taken the exact same formula, which is a sum of 2 to 13, and it's moved it into the next columns. So now this is a total of C2 to C13. And if you want to, and so, when you're working in Excel, you can look at something and say, it doesn't seem to make sense. You can always go up and review your formula. So up here it says equals C2 to C13. That's correct. This one equals a sum of D2 to D13. That's correct. So now I've got all of these summed up correctly. Now, here's another thing you might want to do. Let's say you want to know what the average is of everything above there. So I click on the cell where I want the formula to appear. In this case, it is B15. Go up here again to my little sigma where my formulas are, and I find the one that says average. Click on average, and now it's going to average everything in B2 to B14. Now there's a problem there. B14 is a sum. I don't want that there. So Excel defaults to find all the data above or next to a cell that you've put in there, and it will attempt to put that all in there. So I've got an error here. There's several ways I can fix this and make, because I don't want B2 to B14. I want B2 to B13 to be the average. So one way I can do it is I can come right down here in the cell where its formula is there, nice and big, and I can change it. Or I can go up here and click into the formula and the formula bar, and I can change it. So I can go in there, I can find the 14, I can backspace and make it 13, just change the data. Or the way I typically do it is I go up here and I just re-grab the stuff. Oops, that was a mistake. We're going to click on undo, and I want this to be an average. So what I do is I grab it. Now I just adjust the data. So I want it to be 1 through 13. I just kind of hold my mouse down, and I pull it down. Now that's correct. Go up here to my green check box. Correct. And then I can take that formula and I can drag it across here. And so now I know the total and the average of each of those columns. And I haven't had to do a lot of work building it. I just had to repeat what's in the cell by grabbing that fill handle. Let me stop here and ask if anybody has a question about formulas. I can show you a few more formulas in a minute, but let me just ask if anyone wants me to show you any of that again, or wants to ask a question. Do it again.
Do it again.
All right.
Ross.
Yes.
Suppose you have all that added, well, you got some subtraction. Say that August and December is minus. How you do that?
I can show you. I'll get to that. Let me just go up here. Now I'm gonna go up here to my undo. Excel has this little undo redo thing. So I do undo. So the formulas went away. So if you're making mistakes, it's a really handy way to go up and just undo your work. And let me rebuild them. So this one was this cell is a total, and this one is going to be an average. So I'm going to go up here to my formulas, which is this little sigma. Just remember that guy. That's your formula. There is a whole formula ribbon, and some of those are built in right here. Okay, Autosum. You can find your recently used formulas if you want to do it there. But I find I can get almost all my work done by just using this home ribbon right here. So I go up here to the right, drop down. These are my choices. My first one is the sum, and it says sum. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me, everybody. Here's where I do the red X. Oh, that's not what I want. Remember, I'm doing an average, not a sum. So I go down here and I find the formula for average, and I click on. And by the way, if you go down here to more functions, this is where you will see the hundreds of things you can do. So people that build powerful spreadsheets, it really becomes computer programming. Use all these down there. I don't even know what most of them are, but you can do a meeting if you're into statistics. So I'm going to continue to use average. Okay. Now, again, it defaulted to do B2 to B14, but B14 has that sum in there and I don't want it. So I just grab starting at B13 and I scroll up to B2. Okay. And it's saying that it is a sum, a average of, you know what? Something is wrong here. Let me redo that. Close that. Okay. Average. And I grabbed 13, and I go up here till 2. So now I see up here it's an average of B2 to B13. It says it up there. And down here it says it, and that's all correct. So I like that green check box. Green check, check. That's the average. And now if I want to make the next 2 columns with the exact same formula in it, only with their data, I just grab my fill handle and I pull it across, and I've now got an average of column C and column D. Before I come to how to do subtraction, was that the question, how to do subtraction?
Yes.
Good. Subtraction's easy. I'll show you. Let me just do a little formatting here. Okay. So this average here is 9450.03. And I don't need all those decimal points. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to format this whole column. So I click on the whole column right there. All right. Column B. And I go up here and I click my little comma. And the first thing that does, it says some of the data cattywampus with hash marks. So I got to make the column a little bit wider. What it does is it now makes the numbers, if they're in the thousands, it puts a comma in there, and now it gives everything 2 decimal points. You may remember that one had 3 decimal points. Okay. And again, it's because there's too much data to fit. It gives you those hashtags. So I just double click it and it makes the whole column wider. I don't need 3 decimal points. That's just ridiculous. So I go up here and I do reduce. So you can increase or decrease your decimal points. So I'm going to click decrease. It goes from 3 to 2 decimal points to 1 decimal point. I don't need any decimal points. So that's how you can format your numbers, because you really need that comma in the thousands. And sometimes you do need to know the decimals. But let's say the sales are actually currency. So I go up here and I click on the $, and now it makes them all in currency again, or makes them into currency for the first time, not again, but it gives me those 2 decimals again. And if you don't need to know the cents in the currency, you go up here and you just decrease the decimals. So now I've got the exact same numbers, but they're written in the forms of a currency. So that's a very handy thing up here. And these are the common ones, these little icons, but there's a whole long list of currencies of formatting of the data in the cell that you can go through down here, including, so you got general, which just means it's whatever's in there. You've got numbers. In general would be like if you've got words or something in your cell. Currency, and by the way, you can choose different types of currency. You can put it in pounds or euros if you want. Accounting, I won't go into that. And then you can also change your date format, how the date is. I won't show you that right now because we're running out of time, and I do want to show how to subtract. So that's how that column works. So let's say we want to do some subtraction. So we're going to go over to column F, and we're going to call it minus, just for the heck, because we're going to subtract. So I go into this cell, and let's say I want to subtract 1. Let's do it the other way around. I want to subtract column D from column C. All right. Now let's do it the other way around. We'll subtract column, I'm trying to make sure these are going to come out negative numbers. Well, heck, what the heck? So I go up here to my formula and I do sum. So think of multiplication, division, subtraction, and addition. Just think of them in terms of sums. All right. So it's a sum. Now look at that. It says, well, what data do you want to put in there? Excel can't guess for me because there's too many possibilities to guess. So I want to make it a sum, and I start by clicking on the cell that I want, which is C2. And you see up here it says C2, and here it says C2. And if I want to subtract it, I hit the minus D2. All right. C2 minus D2. That's what my formula is. And it's also seen up there. And if I like it, green checkbox. And it is true that 1 minus 2 is -1. And if I scroll, and I can now grab my fill handle and I can pull that all the way down, and I can get that for all of these. I don't need to know. Well, it doesn't matter. So now I've built that formula into the whole column that was from this data to the left, just using my fill handle. let's say I want to multiply. If I want to multiply, I go do the same thing. And I go here, click on sum, and I do C2. Okay. And you see how my cursor's in C2? Now I do my little asterisk. That's a symbol for times. And what do you want to multiply it times? I want you to multiply it times D2. Green check. I've now got 1 times 2 is 2. I can grab my fill handle and it will pull that formula all the way down there for me. Now I've got the multiplication. Division, same way. A sum, we're going to do 1. Okay, cell C2, and then I use the /. That's a universal symbol for division, divided by D2. That's what I want to be in there. Green check, and I get 0.5. And I can pull that formula all the way down like that. And now I've got that same formula. In every case, it's 0.5. If it doesn't make sense in this case, so I don't want to confuse anybody, but let's say that what was in that column was supposed to be a statistic, like a percentage. I can come up here and hit my little percentage sign, and it will now format all that as 50%. Very handy thing. So we're running out of time, and I want to make sure I get any questions for anything I've covered so far. I've covered a lot of stuff. We've done formatting and some basic formulas. It's fun to play around with it. There are some videos you can watch on YouTube. All the world's secrets and anything you need to know is on YouTube.
You can't get away that practice, and practice.
Thank you, Joyce. Practice, practice, practice. And you know what? If you put in dummy data like I'm putting in here, who cares? You can even take a real spreadsheet. I'm an author, and so I sell books, and every now and then I download a spreadsheet of the sales of my books. I play around with it, mess up with it. I can delete it. I can get rid of it. I can always download the data off the internet again. So thank you, Joyce. Practice, practice, practice. And it's fun. If you don't know what you're doing, you can always go to the help. They call it in Excel, tell me, but that's really what it is. Any more questions over anything that I've covered right now up to this point? Let me just check here the chat to see if there are any questions.
Yes, Russ, I have a question.
Yes.
So if you were in the total column and say you wanted to total everything, but you wanted to exclude August and November, do you have, what's the formula for that, or how can you use that?
So let's say, which one was that again? Which column?
If you want the total.
Okay.
Total.
I'll show. So that would be down here.
Yes.
All right. So let's go to column B, and I want to exclude August and November. So what I would do is I would go up here, see where it says formula B2 to B13.
Yeah.
In other words, everything in between. So the fastest way to do it is to go back over here and hit your sum again. All right. Only this time you go up here and you're going to do through July. Then I'm on a Mac, so I could press the command key. I forget what key it is on a
Control.
Control. Thank you. I used to work on all the time. And then I hit control, and then I hit the rest of the data there. See, now I've got 2 boxes. And if you look up here, it says it's a sum of B2 to B8, and then a sum of B11 to B13.
Oh, okay.
So I excluded. That's a very good question. And then I click my green check. Remember that green check? Yes, I like that formula. And if I want to, I can drag that formula across into the next 2. Oops, I keep grabbing the wrong thing. Into the next columns. And now those are have excluded.
Okay.
One little thing to notice, though, that happened when I dragged that formula across, it said, oh, B14 is formatted as currency. It drags the currency formatting across here. So I have to go up and change that to just numbers right there. So now they're numbers, and I can hit decrease decimals by doing that. Good question. Yeah, that's something handy you sometimes might want to know. Now, total doesn't necessarily make sense. You have to qualify total except for August and September, but.
Okay. Mhm.
And I gonna just check our chat here. Todd, were there any more questions? Yes, Bobby asked, can you do a basics part 2? I think if you do intermediate, go to that class and punch into the chat some things you want to know, and Wade can show you. This class is free. You can come back and take this class next week and the week afterward if you want. Keep on practicing. I found some people do a little thing, which I find pretty neat. They sometimes call on their iPad or their phone. They connect to the Zoom, and then they work on their computer on the side, which is a way to practice it. So I won't be able to show you how to share the docs. There is a way you can actually export all this data and this as a spreadsheet into a table and into docs. And Kathleen says, how do you know that the asterisk means multiply? That's just one of those things you have to learn. There's all sorts of little symbols that you can learn in Excel. And I won't confuse you by trying to tell you any of them right now because it might just confuse you, but each of the symbols does mean something. And that's something you need to learn. And let's see, any more questions that I didn't cover? So everybody, I'm going to stop the share here and get out of this spreadsheet and come back to see you all again.
Okay,
And
Russ.
I'm sorry if there was anything you wanted me to cover I didn't, but come back next week and put that question in the chat. And you can
I'll be back.
You can see a video of this class all over again. So when you get your email, that link will be there. And I tell people there's a hint if you're watching it on a video and you've got another screen you can practice on, you can pause me. See, you can't pause me real time very easily, but you can pause and then practice and practice and practice. You can rewind and do it again. So sometimes going back and look at the video, it can be a help.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's free as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank
See
you.
you
You're
soon,
welcome.
Russ.
You were a great group, and everybody have a good day and come back
All
for more
right.
Get Set Up classes. I'll be
All
teaching a
right.
few this evening. So if you want to come back on the schedule, I have one at 5:30, 6 questions every author should ask if they want to publish a book. And then
Okay.
I'm doing it. If you're a cyclist, I'm doing a class on cycling at 7:30. So
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Thank you, Russ.
Thanks,
We'll
Russ.
Bye.
see
Have-
you soon. All right.
Okay.
Night,
Bye-bye.
you too.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.